we have a ton of interns here at ESPN 97.5.
I love their enthusiasm.
They are so confident with their takes, Fred.
I love it.
You heard a great one.
First off, shout out to Mitchell. Okay, tall drink of water. What's Mitchell about? 6'3", 6'4"?
We haven't measured.
We don't have a scouting report yet.
Big guy.
We haven't done the scouting report for the interns.
Big guy. I think if we worked with him, he could probably put up 3 plates like you.
Oh, I think he better be able. Now I'll tell you what. If his handshake's any indication of it, we might be lucky to get 185. I'm just saying. But my man Mitchell and I had a spirited conversation prior to me coming on here, and we were talking about the Texans draft. And I told him that I wasn't a fan of Bryce Young, which apparently he took umbrage with.
Uh-oh. Why don't you like Bryce? Too short?
I just don't like my quarterbacks at 5'10", $190.
He's my size.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. And look, I'm not saying that he might not have a great career. I mean, look, we've got Drew Brees as the example.
Right.
And that's it. That's it.
Russell Wilson is thicker. Bryce Young is a lot more wiry.
And I think he's a little – and let's not underestimate the fact that this is also a dude who could have been a professional baseball player. Like, that's the one thing when you look at a guy like a Kyler, even though I've said for years, and shout out to my boy Henry Thomas, who's too small, and I don't want anybody that small as my quarterback. Bryce Young just – and look, if we're all wrong, we're all wrong. But – and I just – when you're 5'10" and it takes – like you literally have to try to put on weight. And for guys like us who have to try to put on weight, although I will say as you get older, once you hit that 40 mark, putting on weight, not as hard as it used to be when I was like, Mapes' or Gallant's age. But no, I'm just, look, and look, when you've got the greatest quarterback of all time as your quarterback, and I'm talking about Pat Mahomes.
Never beat Tom Brady.
Well, I'll say this. When you have the greatest active quarterback.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll give you deference. Look, I'm a Tom Brady guy. I love me some TB12. I ain't gonna hate. But when you got the greatest active quarterback right now in Mahomes, and you look at his size, because think about even a Tom Brady. I mean, I know we bash on him because he wasn't the most mobile guy in the world, but Tom's a big dude. Like people misunderestimate. I'm just gonna make up words while we're here. Dude, he's a big guy.
6'4", I want to say in the 220.
220, 230, every bit of it, dude. I mean, and Tom Brady's just a big dude, so you need big quarterbacks. I'm just saying, look, we will see what happens with Bryce Young. I do like the fact that you got Frank Reich as your head coach, all right? And I think Frank Reich has a little something to prove after the way things went in Indianapolis.
Well, speaking of Frank Reich, the big news this week, Fred, is that now at practice, Bryce Young has been vaulted over Andy Dalton with the ones. I thought an interesting way to bring it back to the Texans. You've been paying attention to the Texans OTAs. It's still a back and forth between C.J. Stroud and Davis Mills. And I was talking about
I'm okay with that.
You're okay with it?
Absolutely.
I'm kind of over it.
Absolutely.
It feels like it's for show.
No. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think – look, D'Amico has a blank check, blank canvas, whatever you want to call it. We'll go back to our boy Mitchell out here because he castigated me for this. I would not be surprised if Davis Mills was your day one starter.
I wouldn't be 100% surprised by it, but I do think that things are trending in the direction that Stroud's going to be working with the ones like sooner rather than later in the offseason.
He should be. He's your number. He's your number 2 quarterback. But I'll tell you what, if Davis Mills goes out there and ball, because at the same time too, it could be as much as you need to showcase Davis Mills as well.
Right, but it's not possible with Mills. We know what Mills is. Mills can't hit on the sideline.
You know what? I'm gonna disagree with you slightly, and I know my boy Henry would give me a hard time about this, but I'll say this much. And I think you talked about it. I've heard other guys on this station talk about it as far as being able to make big throws. But I will say this about Davis Mills. Davis Mills showed flashes his rookie year. He really did. And I think last year, when you look at the debacle that was this football team from soup to nuts, all right. Look, if Bobby Slowick can make Brock Purdy a legit stand-in quarterback, you don't think that he can do the same thing with Davis Mills? And you want to talk about a dude that's got, look, I'm a big fan of Chip. I'm Chip on the shoulder guy, okay? I love Chip on the shoulder guys. Davis Mills has everything to prove.
2 things, though. He can't move, and he can't hit a pass on the sideline. Now, to your point.
Not well.
With Purdy, that offense is so good, getting the ball out quick.
Yeah.
maybe Mills is capable of that with a better offensive coordinator. And we're hoping that that's what Bobby Slowick was a big part of last year with Brock Purdy. But my big obstacle with Davis Mills is that if you can't extend a play, like you were talking about with Patrick Mahomes a little bit ago, you can't extend a play like that. Get the hell out of here.
Let's not compare. I mean,
But you get what I'm saying here, Fred, right? Like Stroud doesn't do it that much, but Stroud at the very least is capable of extending plays. You watch the end of that game against Georgia. I mean, it was his feet that actually you finally saw for the first time, because for the most part, he looked mostly like a pocket passer for his entire time at Ohio State.
Yeah, and what was I guess that was what boggled my mind the most was that by design that he didn't extend plays throughout his entire Ohio? Like, why was it like what? All of a sudden, through 11, 12 weeks, C.J. Stroud doesn't know how to run, but then suddenly against Georgia, all of a sudden he's got go happy feet?
He made it sound like that was intentional and that he had regrets about not moving around more at the NFL Combine, I want to say.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, man. Look, he's what, 6'3",
big guy.
220, whatever it is. I mean, look, he's got all the size. Look, if Bryce Young was 6'1", 6'2", then I would agree with my boy Mitchell out here that maybe we do have a generational talent in Bryce Young.
Let's come back to Mitchell and his other take.
Yes,
it was about the Terminator Will Anderson, right?
Speaking of generational talent, because I've got a take, and it's not. I mean, it's not hot. It's not anything.
Hit me, Fred. This is why we got you.
Because I'll tell you what, I thought the Texans should have gone a different direction on defense, but given the whole, like, we love choir boys and all that kind of stuff, I mean, we knew what direction they weren't going to go in, but I would have liked to have seen him get Jalen Carter.
Yeah, I think it could have worked here. I talked about it.
Of course it could have worked
this offseason. You got DeMeco Ryans here, and DeMeco Ryans was billing himself, Fred, as this guy who could coach up men, and that it's more than just about what the guy does in the locker room. Like, we're trying to make these guys into, like, functioning young men.
Yeah.
I loved hearing that from him. Again, maybe it's a little bit overstating what your actual impact is because you're a football coach. But I did think with Carter it would be possible. The thing with Carter that I do wonder about, and now he's in a great situation in Philadelphia.
He's in a tremendous situation.
Was this situation that good? Because you had DeMeco, but do you have the supporting cast around to maybe make him learn what it takes to succeed in the NFL? I know they brought in Sheldon Rankins. They have Jerry Hughes already, but it's not like the Eagles defensive line room, which is essentially like they can all push Carter around and say like, dude, you ain't done anything.
You could say that here in Houston.
But they all have pelts on the wall in Philly. They do not have any pelts. Like, this defensive line sucked last year.
Okay, but, look, let's see how good you really are. Okay, I mean it's easy. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's easy to look good when you got your returning Super Bowl defensive line, and oh, by the way, have that D line look at the Super Bowl. But against here against in Houston, okay, let's see what you really are made of.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, because again, you don't have that freak show with D lineman to back up
Jalen
against.
Carter.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So if Jalen Carter, like, look, if you're that dude, like we heard you were, and it seemed to be, before we found out that you were Speed Racer. If you're that guy and everybody was saying you were the number one overall pick and it wasn't even close, then be that guy in Houston.
But he's going to be in Philadelphia.
But he's going to be that guy in Philadelphia. And again, like I said, I know I like to.
How do you feel about Will Anderson? Because they traded a lot to go get Will Anderson. And I don't know how to feel. Like, I think I'm excited. I like his nickname. I like that he had a chain, not like your chain with the pen on it.
That's right.
He's got a chain with a Terminator skull. His nickname is the Terminator.
Look, me being an Arnold Schwarzenegger guy, I mean, I love that.
Commando.
Fubar's terrible, by the way.
It is. I was bummed out.
I was bummed
out. I watched it on Netflix as soon as it came out because I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's Arnold.
They're trying to go for True Lies, but there's too many characters, and they're trying to make them all deep. And it's like, no, I just want Arnold. And that lady who's attractive.
Who, Ray Dow Chong?
Is that her name?
Yeah, that's her
character
her
lead.
And that was a young Alyssa Milano in that movie as well.
Really?
That's the daughter. She's the daughter.
There's Eliza Dushku in True Lies.
Oh, we're talking about True Lies. I thought we were still talking about Commando. I'm
Commando,
sorry.
You're right. That was Alyssa Milano.
Absolutely, it was Alyssa Milano.